Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session of Spokane Public Schools Keep Learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all our third graders out there and any child who's interested in joining us. My name is Sharon Withrow, and I'm an instructional coach at Bemis Elementary in Spokane Schools, and I get to be your teacher for this lesson. I'm so glad you are participating with me today. Today, we will be learning about text features and how they are used by an author to explain things in the text and by readers to better understand the text. You won't need any special materials or supplies for our time today. Let's get started. The text we're going to read is called A Tree is Growing by Arthur Doros, illustrated by S.D. Schindler. You may already read this text with Mrs. Stumbaugh earlier this week. We're going to look at it more closely to really focus on text features. Text features are what readers use to help understand the text. In this story, we will see several features that the author has included to make it more interesting. Here's just a sample of some of what we'll see. Take a moment to read these words. As you read them, does it come to mind what they might mean? All right, readers, let's go ahead and get started. A giant tree may look as if it has always been big, but even the biggest tree keeps growing and changing. In the spring, you can see that a tree is growing as you watch buds on the branches unfold into leaves. Readers, do you see my red arrow that popped up? This arrow is going to come up throughout the story to help us find text features. The feature that I'm highlighting at this point is the sidebar. The sidebar is a part of the page that's set aside to share new or different information. Throughout the text, you will see that this author has chosen to include sidebars. Let's read this one. Bristlecone pines are the oldest known living trees on Earth. Some have been growing for 5,000 years, since before the pyramids in Egypt were built. That's fascinating information that ties in with what we just learned about trees growing and changing over time. It'll be interesting to see how the author uses the sidebar throughout the text. Let's go on. Leaves can be skinny needles or big heart shapes. Whatever shape or size a leaf is, it makes food for the tree. A kind of sugar is made in the leaves, and trees use the sugar as food. The sugary water made in the leaves is mixed with the other tree juices called sap. The food in the sap is carried throughout the tree. Where a branch breaks or where bark is cut, sap oozes out of a tree. The strongest smells of some saps can keep insects from eating the trees they live on. Readers, my arrow's back to show us another text feature. This feature is a caption. A caption is added to give more information about a photo or illustration in a text. Throughout this book, the illustrator has chosen to draw pictures rather than use photographs. This illustration is of a sassafras leaf. I know that from the caption. This is what it says. If you rub a sassafras leaf, the sap smells spicy. Down below, there's a caption with the maple tree. Maple syrup is the boiled sap of sugar or maple trees. So the purpose of a caption is to give us more information about the illustration. Let's go on. Here we have two illustrations of a baobab tree. Baobab trees store water in the trunks. When a baobab tree trunk is swollen with water, it is round and fat. In dry weather, the tree gets water from the trunk. Then the tree gets thinner. The illustrator has chosen to draw two pictures to show a comparison. At the left picture, the tree is thin and dry, kind of like our trees look in the wintertime with no leaves. But on the right, you can see that the tree is thriving. There's leaves, and the trunk has gotten big and plump with all the water. These two pictures help us understand what the author was telling us about how these trees operate. A tree needs sunlight, air, soil, and water to grow. Water travels through passages in the trunk and branches up to the leaves. The water moves up the trunk as if it is being sucked through a straw. Sugary sap made in the leaves travels down other passages in the trunk, taking food to different parts of the tree. Readers, I want you to look at this close-up. This picture shows a zoomed-in view of what happens in a branch. There's all the different parts of the inside as well as the tubes where the water travels to feed the tree. The author chose to do this so we could have a better idea of how the tree works. The roots of a tree grow into the ground and hold the tree in place. Roots are like pipelines. They absorb water and carry it into the tree. A tree's roots spread out far underground. They usually go out a little farther than the tree's branches. Trees need minerals to grow. Minerals are tiny particles that are found in the soil. Salt is one kind of mineral. Like salt, other minerals dissolve in water. They are mixed in with the water that roots absorb and are carried throughout the tree. Mushrooms growing among the roots of a tree can help it get minerals. And the mushrooms and plants growing in near a tree get water brought by the tree's roots. A few kinds of trees drop roots from branches into the soil to gather water. Banyan tree roots grow into columns all around the tree. Growing roots are strong. A root can lift a sidewalk or split a rock as it grows. By splitting the rock, it helps make soil. Readers, I want you to look closely at the large image on the page. The text feature that they have chosen to use on this page is a cross section. What they've done is show what it would look like if we cut away some of the earth and we can view underneath. I can see the roots growing down from the tree and spreading out far to give it stability, and I can also see worms and grubs down there doing their job in the soil, as well as the mushrooms on the surface. This cross section gives us a view we normally wouldn't have into what is happening underground beneath the tree. I think the author's purpose in doing this was to help me have a better idea of how all of these living things work together. Bark is the skin of a tree. The outer layer of bark protects the tree. When an oak tree is young, the bark is as smooth as the baby's skin. As the tree grows older, the bark becomes rough and cracked. Looking at the bark of a tree can help you know what kind of tree it is. The cork used for bulletin boards is the peeled off outer bark of a cork oak tree. Honey locust bark has spines to help protect the tree. The bark you can touch and see is not growing anymore. Underneath it is a layer of growing bark called cambium. Each year's cambium growth is a ring in the wood of a tree. As trees add new cambium, the trees become bigger around. Next to the cambium are two layers called xylem and phloem. Water from the roots moves through the xylem and sap from the leaves moves through the phloem. In cool climates, cambium only grows in spring and summer. count growth rings to see how old a tree was when it died. An old fir tree can have over 1,000 rings, one for each year it lived. In tropical rainforests, the cambium grows all year and there are no rings. It is hard to tell the age of these trees. Readers, I would like you to look closely at this tree. This is a diagram to show us the parts of a tree. As you can see on the top surface, the shading at each circle shows the rings of the tree. Those are the growth rings that help us know how old a tree is. Down inside, you can see the different kinds of bark, the phloem, the cambium, and the xylem. I'm able to know which part is which because of another text feature. Those are called labels. I bet you've noticed labels all throughout this text. The author uses them frequently to help us know what we're looking at and understand the pictures. Let's go on. Trees grow bigger around, and they grow taller. As a tree grows, lower branches may fall off, making the trunk look longer. But the branches do not move upward on the trunk. A tree grows taller only at the top, as the tips of the top branches grow upward. If you find a mark on a tree trunk today, that mark would stay at the same height for as long as the tree lives. Sequoias are some of the tallest trees in the world, over 300 feet tall. Readers, I would like you to look closely at this picture. I see labels again, and they help me understand the illustrations. The illustrations on this page are a text feature. They absolutely help us to understand what is happening as the tree grows. When the tree is 10 years old, you can see that it is narrow and small with a few flimsy branches. As it goes on and grows bigger and stronger, the trunk gets wider and the branches get bigger and the tree continues to grow. It's also a great illustration of how the bark changes over time. If you look at the tree that's 10 years old, you can tell that the bark is fairly smooth. As the tree gets older, you notice it changes color a little bit and you can almost see the bark spreading apart to make room for the tree to grow bigger. This is an example of the author using illustrations intentionally to teach us more about the topic. In the spring, you can smell tree flowers. Tree flowers are found in many shapes and colors and have many different smells. Parts of flowers grow to become seeds. Oak trees have dangling clumps of flowers called catkins that help make acorns, the seeds of an oak tree. Birds, bees, insects, and even bats are attracted to flowers to drink their sweet juices. When they brush the flowers, the animals get a powder called pollen on them. The animals carry the pollen to other flowers. When the pollen mixes with certain parts of the flowers, seeds grow. Wind also helps pollinate flowers. Readers, I want you to take a moment and notice some of the text features on this page. Think about what you see. I see lots of labels again. They've labeled the birds and the plants and even the honeybee. I notice another feature that we haven't talked about yet. Do you see the arrow? There it is. The word pollen is highlighted. Why would an author highlight, or sometimes they use something called bold text, a certain word? The author does this to point out words that are important to the text. Sometimes they're vocabulary around the topic, and other times they could be challenging words that might be found in a glossary at the end. In our text, they're highlighting words that give us more information about this topic. An oak tree can drop more than 50,000 acorns in 1 year. Only a few of them grow into oak trees. Most are eaten, are crushed, rot, or land in a place where they cannot take root. Acorns can be carried away and dropped or buried by animals to grow in new places. Other kinds of seeds blow in the wind or float on the water. Different kinds of trees make seeds with different coverings. Nuts, cones, and fruits all have seeds inside. Coconuts are seeds of a palm tree. A coconut can float across the ocean and sprout on a sandy beach. Readers, I want you to look and notice what text features you see on this page. Do you see the captions near the pictures in the sidebar? The sidebar is also another feature, isn't it? You can see that they've shown the different types of plants and seeds, and there's even a cutaway of the cherry. In cool climates, trees stop growing in the autumn. The leaves of many trees stop making sugary food for the tree, and they lose their green color. Then you can see the red, brown, yellow, and orange colors that are also in the leaves. Pine trees and some other trees have needles or leaves that do not change color in the autumn. When leaves fall to the ground, insects and worms eat them. The chewed and eaten bits of leaves make the soil better for growing trees and other plants. Autumn is a great time to collect leaves. Each tree has its own special color. Trees rest in the cold of winter, and their branches are bare. They may look as if they are dead, but look closely, and you can see small buds that will become leaves and flowers in the spring. In the spring, listen to the wind rustling the leaves. The trees are growing again. Readers, I enjoyed sharing this book with you today. I hope that when you are reading other nonfiction texts, you will think about these text features and maybe notice others. The important part is to also think, why does the author do this? What do they want me to learn? I have enjoyed doing some literacy learning with you today. Readers, I hope that the next time you read a nonfiction text, you'll be thinking about the text features you see and why the author has put them there. A great way to think about it is, what does the author want me to learn from this text feature? I have enjoyed doing some literacy learning with you today. Thank you for joining me as you keep learning from home. I look forward to seeing you again for our next lesson on KSPS. Have a great rest of your day.